Most people destroy themselves trying to fill silence. A pause stretches 2 seconds too long and something in them can't tolerate it. They talk. They explain. They apologize for things nobody asked them to apologize for. They hand over information they never meant to give away, just to make the discomfort stop. Watch closely enough, in any room, and the pattern repeats itself endlessly. The person who stays quiet rarely loses control of a conversation. The one who keeps talking, who keeps adding and softening and clarifying, is the one giving everything away. Silence is not empty. It is a pressure test, and it finds the weak points in a person's composure faster than any question ever could. You've felt this before, even if it never had a name. A boss reads a proposal and says nothing for a moment too long, and suddenly there's an urge to fill the gap with caveats that were never planned. A date goes quiet mid-conversation, and the silence gets narrated out loud, nervously, just to keep the air moving. That reaction is not weakness in any personal sense, it is baseline human wiring. But it is also the exact reaction that separates people who look composed under pressure from people who visibly unravel the moment a room goes quiet. Picture a job interview. A candidate answers a question well, confident tone, clean structure, finishes strong. Then the interviewer says nothing. No nod, no follow-up, no acknowledgement at all. Within seconds the candidate cracks. I could also give more detail if that's useful. Then more detail follows. Then a joke to cut the tension. Then an apology for rambling. None of it was necessary. The silence did that, not a hard question, not a hostile look, just the absence of a response. This happens because the brain running the show was not built for interview rooms or dating apps. It was built for small tribes, where being cut off from the group meant losing protection, food safety. A blank stare or an unanswered comment used to signal something dangerous: disapproval, rejection, exile. That wiring never got an update. So when a modern conversation goes quiet, the nervous system reacts as though something real is at stake, even when nothing is. This is why unfilled silence produces a specific kind of discomfort that unfilled noise never does. An argument gives a person something to respond to. A blank pause gives them nothing, and nothing is more threatening to a social brain than conflict, because conflict is at least information. Silence is a void, and the mind rushes to fill a void with worst-case guesses. Did that land wrong? Do they think less of you now? Is something about to go wrong here? The closer the relationship, the sharper this gets. Silence from a stranger on a train is easy to ignore. Silence from a boss, a partner, or a parent lands completely differently, because their opinion carries weight a stranger's never will. That is why a single unanswered text from someone who matters can spiral into 3 follow-up messages, while the same silence from someone irrelevant barely registers at all. The discomfort scales with how much the other person's judgment matters, not with how long the silence actually lasts. Watch a first date go quiet for 4 or 5 seconds. Someone will almost always move to break it, and it is rarely the more grounded one at the table. They ask a rapid follow-up question, laugh at nothing, or start narrating their own thoughts out loud just to keep the air moving. Watching who breaks a silence first, in nearly any interaction, is one of the fastest ways to spot who holds the frame and who is quietly chasing approval inside it. Families run this dynamic at the dinner table constantly. A parent asks a short question, gets a short answer, and instead of pushing further, just lets it sit. 9 times out of 10, the kid keeps talking anyway, filling in details nobody even asked for, because the silence felt like judgment, and the fastest way to end that feeling is to explain, elaborate, confess. None of this is a character flaw. It is present in nearly everyone, to some degree, and it does not disappear with age or status or confidence in other areas of life. The difference between people who look composed under pressure and people who visibly unravel is not that one group feels the discomfort and the other doesn't. Both feel it. One group has simply trained itself to sit inside that discomfort without reacting to it. The other hasn't. That distinction, more than charisma, more than intelligence, more than rehearsed lines, is where real control begins. There is a specific kind of person who cannot let a silence sit without narrating it. Ask a coworker why a deadline slipped. Say nothing after the first sentence of the answer, and watch what happens next. It's just that the client changed the requirements twice, and honestly the whole team was slammed, and it was flagged early. It's more that nobody read the email. None of that was requested. It surfaced because the quiet after the first sentence felt like an accusation, whether or not one was ever intended. Explaining is a reflex, not a decision. It comes from a deep discomfort with being misunderstood. Most people would rather over-explain and sound anxious than stay quiet and risk being seen as guilty, careless, or wrong. The instant a statement is met with silence instead of agreement, the brain reads that gap as disapproval and scrambles to close it. More words, more context, more reasons why the first version wasn't the full picture. This shows up everywhere once it becomes visible. A message gets left on read. 10 minutes pass. A second message follows. Sorry if that came across weird. Just meant. Nobody asked for clarification. The silence manufactured the need for it. A customer complains about a charge, and the representative on the other end lets a beat of silence pass instead of immediately offering a refund. The customer, uncomfortable with the quiet, starts negotiating against their own complaint. I guess if it's really not possible, maybe half would work. The rep said nothing at all. The customer did all the work of walking back their own demand. Negotiators are trained to exploit exactly this. State a number, then stop talking completely. The instinct on the other side is to fill that space, and filling it usually means moving toward a worse deal than the one they walked in wanting. Whoever speaks first after a number lands on the table is very often the one who ends up conceding something. Children learn this dynamic long before they can name it. A kid breaks a rule, gets caught, and a parent says nothing, just looks. The kid fills the silence with a confession that goes far beyond what the parent actually knew going in. Silence, in that moment, functions like an open-ended question that was never actually asked. The need to explain runs deeper than any single situation. It is tied to identity. Being misjudged threatens how a person sees themselves, and threats to identity trigger the same defensive scramble as threats to safety. An unanswered silence reads like a verdict already being formed. Talking becomes an attempt to argue the case before the jury reaches a decision. Even when there is no jury, no verdict, and no one thinking anything at all. The people who never fall into this pattern are not the ones with nothing to explain. They are the ones who have made peace with being misread sometimes. They understand a silence is not automatically a judgment, and even when it is, chasing it with more words rarely improves the outcome. Usually it just hands over material that was never asked for and would not have been requested otherwise. Silence is not only a shield, it is also a tool for collecting information nobody would hand over voluntarily. The moment a conversation goes quiet, attention shifts. Someone who stops talking is not disengaging, not if they are doing it right. They are watching tone, pace, what gets repeated, what gets avoided, what details show up that were never asked for in the first place. Take a disagreement between two partners. One side makes a claim. I wasn't even talking to him, we're just friends. The instinct is to respond immediately, to push back or accept it at face value. Instead, say nothing, hold eye contact and wait. Someone telling the truth tends to hold their statement, maybe repeat it more simply, maybe get irritated at the silence itself. Someone leaving something out often does something different. They add detail nobody asked for. We grabbed coffee once, but that's genuinely it. And even then it was only because the extra information, volunteered into a silence that never requested it, tends to say more than the original claim did. This plays out in professional settings just as often. A vendor quotes a price. Instead of countering immediately, sit with it. Let 5 full seconds pass. Some hold firm, confident in the number they gave. Others start negotiating against their own quote before the other side says a single word back. That's list price, obviously there's room to move on that. The silence never asked for a concession. It got offered one anyway. Interviews work the same way in reverse. A candidate delivers a polished, clearly rehearsed answer about their greatest weakness. Say nothing. Let the pause stretch a beat past comfortable. Rehearsed answers tend to end and stay ended. Real answers often keep going, because the person is now thinking in real time instead of reciting a script. And what comes next tends to land more honest than what came first. Meetings expose this at scale. A manager asks the room if there are any concerns about a plan, then, instead of moving straight to the next slide, just 5 seconds. 10. The silence starts to feel unbearable to everyone in the room. And the person who actually has doubts is usually the one who cracks first, not because they're the most nervous person there, but because they're the one holding something unspoken that the silence is pressing against. The people with nothing to hide tend to outlast the pause without much effort at all. None of this requires confrontation. It requires patience and the willingness to let a gap sit open long enough for something true to fall into it. Most people are so uncomfortable with unfilled space that they will hand over the very thing the silence was used to find, without ever being asked a direct question about it. Watching also means noticing what a person does physically once the talking stops. Shoulders that were relaxed suddenly square up or draw inward. Eyes that held steady start flicking toward the door, or down or sideways, searching for an exit that was never actually there. A foot starts tapping. A throat gets cleared before anyone has spoken a word. None of these prove anything on their own. Paired with a silence that runs a beat too long, they tend to surface exactly when composure starts to crack underneath. This is the real function of staying quiet. Not to seem mysterious, not to intimidate anyone in the room. It creates the one condition under which people reveal themselves without resistance. A space with nothing to push against, so whatever they are holding has nowhere left to go but out into the open. None of this works if the silence looks forced. The moment it reads as effortful, it stops signaling composure and starts signaling something else entirely. Anxiety, hostility, or a tactic being run a little too obviously for comfort. The most common mistake is treating silence like a weapon instead of a state. Someone gets upset in a relationship and goes quiet on purpose, arms crossed, jaw tight, clearly punishing the other person with the absence of words. That is not the same skill at all. Stonewalling reads as exactly what it is: an attempt to control someone else's emotions through withdrawal. It might work for a moment. It also erodes trust every time it gets used, because the other person eventually stops trying to reach the silence altogether, and once that happens, there is nothing left to control. Apologizing for the pause undoes it just as fast. Sorry, just thinking collapses the entire effect in 3 words. A silence that gets narrated stops being a silence and starts being a performance, and performances of confidence are far easier to spot than the real thing ever is. A nervous laugh right as the pause begins does the same damage. It signals, before a single second of silence even lands, that the quiet feels uncomfortable to the person holding it. The most effective silences never announce themselves at all. They simply happen, the same way a normal pause in speech happens, without any hint that something is being deployed on purpose. Body language gives away more than most people realize. Tight shoulders, a locked jaw, eyes that won't settle anywhere. All of it broadcasts discomfort even while the mouth stays shut. Silence paired with visible tension does not read as composed. It reads as suppressed. The entire advantage of a quiet response comes from looking like someone with nothing urgent to say, not someone straining not to say it. Overusing it kills the effect just as fast. Silence works because it breaks the normal rhythm of back and forth conversation. Deploy it after every single sentence, and it stops feeling like presence, starts feeling like a tactic being run on purpose, which puts the other person on guard instead of off balance. The people who use it best barely seem to be using it at all. It looks like patience, never strategy. Then there is checking out entirely, which gets mistaken for silent confidence far too often. Real presence during a pause means staying locked in, still reading the room, still tracking what is happening in real time. Mentally drifting away while a conversation goes quiet is not the same thing, and it shows. Eyes glaze over. Reactions land a half-second late. Anyone paying attention can tell the difference between someone quiet and fully present, and someone who has simply left the conversation altogether. Held too long, a pause stops applying pressure to anyone but the person holding it. There is a window in every silence where it works, and a point past that window where it curdles into pure discomfort for everyone in the room, control included. Reading that window matters more than the silence itself. Composure was never about how long someone can go without talking. It is about knowing exactly when to stop. Comfort with silence is not a personality trait. It is a trained response, built the same way any other tolerance gets built. Small doses, repeated often, gradually stretched further. Start with something almost too easy to count as practice. In line at a coffee shop when small talk comes up, let a full beat of quiet pass before answering instead of responding instantly. Nobody notices a half-second pause. Most people will not register it as unusual at all. Repeated daily, it retrains the reflex that treats every gap as an emergency needing immediate filling. From there, raise the stakes slightly. In an ordinary conversation with a coworker or a friend, wait 2 full seconds after they finish speaking before responding, even when the reply is already sitting there ready to go. 2 seconds feels enormous the first few times. It registers as nothing to the other person. This single habit does more to build genuine composure than almost anything else here. Because most conversations get lost in the rush to respond before the other person has even finished landing their point. Recording a practice conversation with permission and playing it back afterward reveals something most people have never actually heard: how often they jump into a gap that never needed filling. Count the pauses. Count how many got cut off early. That number tends to run higher than expected, and simply seeing it creates an awareness that carries into the next real conversation without any extra effort. Set aside dedicated time to sit in total silence, away from a phone, away from background noise, starting small. 5 minutes is enough at the beginning. The goal is not meditation for its own sake. It is building a baseline tolerance for an unfilled environment, so a silent moment inside a conversation stops feeling foreign and starts feeling familiar instead. Practice absorbing questions before answering them, even easy ones. Someone asks what's for dinner. Instead of answering on reflex, take a real second, actually consider it, and only then respond. This trains delayed response as a default setting, rather than an emergency skill pulled out only for high-stakes moments. Breathing does more work in this than most people expect. A slow exhale during a held pause keeps the shoulders down and the jaw loose, which is what separates a silence that reads as calm from one that reads as strained. Practicing that exhale in low-stakes silences, the coffee shop pause, the 2-second wait with a friend, makes it automatic by the time a real high-pressure silence actually shows up. Writing down what came up in the body during a day's noticeable silences, a tense meeting, an argument, an interview, the urge to talk, the tightening chest, the racing thoughts, builds the kind of self-awareness that makes the discomfort shrink over time. What gets noticed and named tends to lose some of its grip in the process. None of this requires a stage or an audience. It happens in checkout lines and text message replies, in ordinary conversations nobody else will ever think twice about. That is exactly why it works. Confidence under silence is not built in the rare high-pressure moment. It gets built in the 100 small ones that came before it, the ones where nobody was even watching. Every situation covered here shares the same underlying truth. The person who can sit inside a silence without rushing to escape it holds a kind of leverage that talking never provides. Not because silence is aggressive, not because it is cold, because it is rare, and because almost everyone else in the room is still fighting the same ancient instinct to fill every gap the moment it opens. That instinct does not disappear on its own. It gets replaced, slowly, through the same quiet repetition covered here. A pause held 1 extra second. A question absorbed before it gets answered. A silence left alone instead of apologized for. The people who master this stop needing to prove anything out loud. Their silence does the proving for them.